I'd also like to mention, also I hope with you there in Beirut, Samia Nasser Belki, who actually enabled us to kick this whole project off by introducing us to Professor Toma, and she also introduced us to a cousin of Sir Michael Atiyah, Nahla Atiyah, and it was Nahla who made us aware of just how keen Sir Michael was to develop mathematical research within the Lebanon. So we're a lot to those two. We're very pleased to welcome them here today. So now I'm going to hand over to our retiring president, Professor Caroline Series, and she's going to tell you a bit about the project itself.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure we've been able to hook up like this. It's almost a first for us doing something like this. So on behalf of the London Mathematical Society, and by great good coincidence, the 20th anniversary of CAMS, I'm extremely pleased to be able to announce the launch of the LMS UK-Atiyah UK-Lebanon fellowships. So the fellowships are designed to facilitate a two-way visiting program for mathematicians between the UK and the Lebanon, and we greatly look forward to building a fruitful interchange to strengthen the mathematical ties between our two countries. So as I'm sure most of you know, Sir Michael Atiyah, born in 1929 and died early this year, was an absolutely brilliant mathematician, a towering figure who dominated the British and indeed the international mathematical landscape for over half a century. If I could just tell you a little bit, I'm sure many people know, but in case you don't, he won the Fields Medal, the premier award in mathematics for young mathematicians. He went on much later in life to be awarded the Abel Prize, which is again the highest award in mathematics for lifetime achievement. He won awards in mathematics far too numerous to mention, but not only that, he was also a great leader and administrator is much too low a thing to say, a great leader of the mathematical community. He was one of the LMS's distinguished presidents. He was also, for a period, the president of the Royal Society in the UK. He was the master of Trinity College in Cambridge. At the same time, he was the founding director of the Isaac Newton Institute, which no doubt some of you know about, in Cambridge. And he also, by the way, was one of the leading figures who set up the European Mathematical Society. So I hope that gives you just some idea. He was a tremendously energetic and extraordinary man. He was actually born in England, but his father was Lebanese, his mother was Scottish, and his connections to the Lebanon meant a great deal to him throughout his life. He was a frequent visitor. He was made a commander of the Order of Cedars in 1994. He was awarded an honorary degree from AUB in 2004 and the Lebanon Order of Merit Gold in 2005. And of course, I forgot to mention, he was also a member of the Order of Merit, the highest honor in the United Kingdom. So to come to our scheme, the scheme is going to be operated in partnership between the LMS and CAMS. CAMS was founded in 1999 through the efforts of an international group of scientists. And the main goal was to make CAMS the premier center of excellence for research in mathematics in the Middle East. And you will know much better than I do that CAMS also owes much to the dedicated efforts of Sir Michael, who was a frequent visitor. So we were really delighted when the CAMS director, Professor Jihad Tuma, took up our initial approach with great enthusiasm. And the final design of the program that we've put together owes a great deal to his input and support. And we're very grateful that CAMS has generously offered to cover considerable parts of expenses, travel and subsistence and accommodation, no matter which of the mathematical institutions in your country the visitors from the UK are visiting. We hope that the fellowships will be a suitable, lasting memorial to Sir Michael. So what do? They provide for two alternative things to happen. One is for an established UK-based mathematician to visit the Lebanon for anything up to 6 months. And we hope that there will be longer visits and that the people coming will engage with people there and deliver some lectures and so on and so forth. Alternatively, it may be that there are advanced MSc or PhD students in mathematics or mathematical physics in the Lebanon or with very strong ties to the Lebanon who wish to visit the UK to further their study or research. We're really envisaging they will likely perhaps have a place at Cambridge to do some advanced study, and the fellowship will provide additional funding for them to enable them to continue their studies for up to 12 months. And of course, if there are mathematicians in the Lebanon who are more advanced, who would like to come to visit the UK, that is also a possibility. So the successful fellow will be chosen by a small panel of experts, which will include someone from the Lebanon. There are many more details if you are interested. If you visit the London Mathematical Society website, there is a news item on the front page, and if you click there, it will take you to the page that gives you the full details of the precise details of how to apply and what the conditions are and so on and so forth. So I believe it's available on our webpage now. The applications for the next academic year, which will be the launch in the first, we hope, cohort, will be open from December the 15th, and the closing date will be January the 31st, and we hope that the successful applicant will be notified fairly soon after that. So I'm really greatly looking forward to the success of this program, and I would now like to hand over to Professor Tumab on the other side.
Thank you. Thank you, Caroline. It was really a distinct pleasure for me to collaborate with Professor Series and Professor Curtis for the last few months in the formulation of this initiative in a way that reflected at once the commitment of Sir Michael Atiyah to the development of high-quality mathematics in Lebanon, and to the mission and vision of the Center of Advanced Mathematical Sciences, which has been in operation for 20 years under the leadership of my colleagues in the physics department, Professor Ali Shamsuddin, who is with us in the audience today, and then followed by Professor Wafi Sabra. So the way we see it, and the way we are moving strategically with the next few years in the center, developing rapports with our colleagues in Lebanon and outside to strengthen what was built and build stronger initiative for the future is beautifully illustrated by this type of relationship, which involves a quality of exchange that will invite senior mathematicians from the UK to come and lead thematic programs through the center, which will be of interest to groups here in Lebanon that have been developed over the last few years or that reflect directions in which we want to move in the years to come. So that's very exciting for us. Then on the other hand, over decades of work in mathematics in Lebanon, groups have nucleated across the Lebanon and the Lebanese universities within Lebanon and in the region for sure. And it is the purpose of this meeting in particular to bring that wonderful, fruitful work together as we ponder directions for the future. And these programs have PhD programs associated with them, and we're expecting the math department here at AUB to launch its PhD program shortly. So these programs will naturally be the hubs through which young and talented students will be nurtured. And we hope that this exchange program, which will hopefully be followed by others, will give them exactly the kind of opportunity they need to take the know-how that they have acquired in labs and departments here in Lebanon and engage with related work that is happening in laboratories in the UK or other places eventually. So it couldn't have been a better occasion for us to announce this fellowship than this occasion, which is the 20th year of the foundation of the center. We would have loved, and personally, I would have loved for Sir Michael to be with us for this occasion. Unfortunately, he passed away around the time when I took over as director. I hope there are no direct correlations. I can only be very happy to be part of this adventure and to help in all the ways available to me and to the center, and I'm sure to my colleagues here at AUB and in Lebanon, to make it a very successful adventure for us all. So thanks again for Samia for having initiated this first contact. This was a wonderful adventure. I really enjoyed thinking about mathematics and its development with my colleagues in England. I learned a lot, and it certainly helped me better prepare for the meeting we had in the last few days. So now I turn over the floor to President Fadlu Khouri, who would like to say a few words on the occasion.
Good morning. Your Excellency Rami Murtada, Ambassador of Lebanon, AUB graduate, President Caroline Series, esteemed professors, dear partners and colleagues, it's a pleasure for me to join you today at the crowning of a crucial partnership between the London Mathematical Society and the Center for Advanced Mathematical Sciences at the American University of Beirut, and the launch of the Sir Michael Atiyah UK-Lebanon Fellowships. This comes appropriately in tandem with CAM's three-day symposium to reflect 20 years in the life of the center through the mathematics it has helped nurture, as it pays tribute to its mentor, the renowned mathematician, Sir Michael Atiyah, who shaped not only British but international mathematical landscapes for over half a century. 20 years ago, CAMS was established through the efforts of international scientists like Sir Michael, like the former Dean of Arts and Sciences, Khalil Bitar, with the primary goal of becoming the premier center of excellence for research in the mathematical sciences throughout the Middle East. Today, it provides scholars in Lebanon and the region with a vibrant intellectual environment for performing first-class research in the mathematical and physical sciences, and serves as a catalyst for academic collaboration and interdisciplinary research. Through collaborations with the distinguished academics it hosts from all over the world, this symposium at CAMS is working to strengthen what was rooted and explore new directions for research in applied mathematics. This would not only honor the life and works of Sir Michael, but it would please Sir Michael greatly. A few months before he passed away, and I'm happy to acknowledge my friend Idris Titi. Can you say hello there? I had the pleasure of informing Sir Michael that through the efforts of a stellar group of external international reviewers, we were able to restore tenure for the first time, and that 4 scholars indelibly associated with CAMS, Jihad Touma, Ali Shamsuddin, Kamal Maqdisi, and Wafi Sabra had all received tenure, and that pleased him greatly, because Sir Michael truly believed that scholarship was at the heart of what we do at universities, and great scholarship required great minds to be protected from the pressure of publishing all the time and to look at the high bar. And he was especially pleased that our friend was on the panel because he said, I'm sure he was tough on everyone. I said, yes, Dries was tough on everyone. The UK-Lebanon Fellowships is a wonderful partnership between the LMS and CAMS, and it comes at the service of mathematics in Lebanon, and it's a fulfillment of Sir Michael's long-standing commitment to this particular service. He was deeply implicated with AUB's Center for Advanced Mathematical Sciences since its inception. A frequent visitor, he served as chair of its International Advisory Committee and was an insightful mentor to all of its directors and associates. An endowed chair of mathematical sciences named in his honor was established at AUB in 2008, pledged by the Simons Foundation, by Jim Simons himself, who considered, and I visited Jim earlier this year, a good and admired friend who played an important and critical role in the university's efforts to reestablish itself as a research university, and added that the Michael Atiyah Chair will enable the university to attract top researchers and professors who will provide unparalleled educational opportunities for students at AUB. Sir Michael was not only, as was just mentioned by President Series, a commander of the Order of the Cedars, and received the highest honors of Britain and Lebanon. He was also AUB's commencement speaker in 2001. We also had the privilege of awarding him an honorary doctorate in 2004 for his contributions, not failing to recall his active involvement in promoting world peace as a fellow of the Royal Society, something that he believed was a key part of what great scholars do. By opening minds, we reduce barriers. Emphasizing the key role and responsibility of scientists upon receiving his doctorate of humane letters, Sir Michael said the following words that day: "For more than a century, the AUB has been a beacon of enlightenment in this troubled part of the world, upholding the importance of education and learning throughout many difficult times." Indeed, for 153 years to date, AUB has been a leader of excellence in education in the region, and it's been a forerunner in the advancement of knowledge through research in the service of the peoples of the Middle East and beyond. For me, this is something of a family affair. Both my brother and my uncle, my brother Ramsey and my uncle Nicola, were involved in the formation of this and in inviting Sir Michael for its overall stewardship. So I know they both join me in thanking all of you for doing this. I want to speak on behalf of all of the AUB community and its board. We are very proud to foster collaborations with partners of rare quality, such as the London Mathematical Society, as we continue to further our commitment to the mission of research excellence and our vision for collaborative work with Lebanese and international universities. This partnership allows our promising advanced level students to visit the UK to further their research and interact with mathematicians in host institutions. It allocates resources to direct activities around the expertise of the fellows and their colleagues. It brings great mathematicians to Lebanon with other partner universities, and it raises the stature and the quality and the bar for mathematics in Lebanon and the region. Our fellows will be delivering talks in other institutions with mathematical interests and established mathematics programs in the countries. In addition to AUB, these will be the Lebanese University, Saint-Joseph University, and Notre Dame University. And here I want to comment that Sir Michael was delighted when we formed our partnership with Saint-Joseph University, because he said great universities need to work together and great colleagues need to work together. In summary, we value this collaboration more than we can express because we believe it can materialize our mutual vision for mathematical excellence, for the advancement of mathematical research, and the fostering of exceptional scholars as members of our international communities. As we pledge to do all we can to continue the singular legacy of this incredible man that was Sir Michael Atiyah, and we enter another exciting phase for both institutions through this initiative, we are left with the drive, the generosity, the singular genius and generosity of this rare and highly significant man. Thank you very much.
I'd like now to invite His Excellency Rami Mortada to say a few words.
Thank you, Professor. Good morning, everyone. I'm so humbled and honored to be invited to this event. And I wish to say that considering my grades in math, I really feel blessed to have been admitted to this room. But apart from that, I feel that all the different facets of this event are really very pertinent to me personally. First, as a representative for my country, Lebanon, in the UK, honoring the legacy of Sir Michael Atiyah and his memory, his immaculate contribution to mathematics, which, as Professor just said, has dominated for more than half a century the realm of science, is very timely and necessary. Today is also about honoring the person, Sir Atiyah, the great scientist, the human being who embodied the beauty and truth of mathematics, as he used to refer to it. It's about highlighting his great contribution to the advance of science, which made him one of the greatest mathematicians since Isaac Newton. His passion about mathematics and the new dimensions he brought to it inspired generations of mathematicians and scientists. And it's fair to say that the name Michael Atiyah will always resonate in human history as someone who made a difference. Today is also about highlighting his Lebanese ancestry, a connection with the country, with the culture he was always proud of. He was the true embodiment of his homeland's culture through his everlasting seek for world peace, his globalist vision, which made him, exactly like millions of Lebanese, consider that no geographic or intellectual border couldn't be crossed. Today, as Lebanon is also trying to rethink its mathematics and to remodel its geometry, where its youth and its vibrant society are fully mobilized for a better future, for a better Lebanon that looks exactly like what Michael Atiyah wanted his homeland to look like. It's particularly relevant today to remember Sir Michael. Our country is today rediscovering and reinvigorating its legacy of challenging stagnant geometry, and in this endeavor, I can't think of an inspiration more striking than Michael Atiyah. Today is also about inaugurating a new bond, a new link between UK and Lebanon through the London Mathematical Society Atiyah Fellowships and the CAMS at AUB. I couldn't describe AUB and its contribution better than Michael Atiyah himself, who in 2004, during the honorary doctorate ceremony, and it was just quoted by Professor Khoury, but I think it merits to be reiterated, when he said, for more than a century, AUB has been a beacon of enlightenment in this troubled part of the world, upholding the importance of education and learning throughout many difficult times. Today, that part of the world is still troubled, but more than ever, that same beacon of enlightenment, which is AUB, is still determined, working as the motto goes, so that they may have life and have it more abundantly. And I am confident that the fellowship program we are launching today will be a building block in this direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Ambassador. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce Graham Siegel, who is going to talk to us about the life and works of Sir Michael.
What everyone who met Michael Atiyah remembers was a torrent of energy and enthusiasm, as he called forth. It didn't change from his childhood to his 90th year. I became his student in 1963, when he was 34. But already then, he had an air of confidence and authority, which made him seem ageless rather than young. And beneath the surface of a valiant enthusiasm, there were many other layers which he revealed much more rarely. Among them was his great pride in both his Arab and his Scottish descent. And he also had political views, which, for example, brought him to be president of the Pugwash organization of scientists campaigning the reduction of nuclear and other armaments. But just now, I'm going to speak about him simply as a teacher and a mathematician. So in 1963, he had 6 or 7 students, and also a little cloud of de facto students, officially belonging to others. His loud voice was always audible in our little mathematics building, and we students often hid from his approach, embarrassed to admit we still hadn't thought very much about his suggestions of the day before. But when he caught us, he always fired us up. He always made us sure we could succeed. He was never discouraging, however muddled, ill-conceived with the ideas we put to him. He never dismissed them. He always managed to twist them round into something promising, which we could almost believe we thought of for ourselves. He saw supervising us as like giving artificial respiration to a drowning swimmer. You push them through the motions of research for a bit, and then, with luck, autonomic research kicks in. He understood perfectly how lonely and depressing mathematical research can be for a student. He often said, if you need to know something, ask me. Don't go away and start reading some long, unintelligible book. It'll just make you feel hopeless. He spent all day talking to people, and I always wondered when he did his work. Well, he loved gardening, and he always claimed that gardening was when he had his best ideas, but he could work anywhere, at a moment's notice, in the most distracting surrounding. And another of many paradoxes about him was that without stopping talking, he was a wonderful listener. He was interested in everything. You could always count on him after any mathematical gathering to go about telling everyone what he'd learned from some tongue-tied student no one else had noticed was there. His mathematical style and taste were overwhelming. He was always for the big picture, always for simplicity and clarity. If something was true, he was sure it was for a reason whose essence could be explained in a few sentences and without a blackboard. He had no patience with details, with arguments involving lots of different cases, with anything he thought botanical. He was bored by foundational material. He was famous across the mathematical world for his spellbinding lectures, which linked all kinds of things together in ways whose importance he made instantly convincing. At the time, everyone in the audience thought they'd understood everything. During a lecture, he used to tell us, the things to work out what you don't need to say. One of his convictions was the unity of mathematics. He didn't like to think he worked in a field, but he was sure he was a geometer. One could wonder what he meant by this. There are many ways of being a geometer, and in many of the most natural senses, his methods were not very geometrical. I think it's helpful to think of this in a historical perspective. Michael was always interested in the history of mathematics, and he thought it should have a greater role in undergraduate teaching. Among his greatest heroes was James Clerk Maxwell, who said in 1970, nature reveals to us new forms of quantities which the mathematician could never have imagined for himself. New forms of quantities. Maxwell must have had in mind how magnetic fields are described by axial vectors, rotations by quaternions. rigid bodies by inertia tensors, and so on. Structures like these, many would call them algebraic structures, were what Michael loved best, and he thought of them as geometry. One shouldn't conclude too hastily from this that his mathematics was motivated by physics. His idea of geometry was more Platonic than that. But a few years before Maxwell's words, in his founding presidential address actually to the London Mathematical Society, De Morgan presented a different conception of mathematics from Maxwell's, and I think similarly different from Michael's. Interestingly, De Morgan conceded that the subject matter of mathematics is the properties of space and time. But he went on to claim that the real focus of mathematics is, or they should be, the laws of thought. Well, Michael's focus, like Maxwell's, was the subject matter and not the laws of thought. As a student of Sir William Hodge, Michael began as an algebraic geometer, studying the curves, surfaces, higher dimensional structures defined by algebraic equations, the things of which you see beautiful models in older mathematics departments. In the early 20th century, Lefschetz had transformed algebraic geometry by recognizing that many of its theorems are topological in nature. They actually depend only on features of objects in space which can't be changed by bending or stretching or pushing things around. The winding number proof that an nth degree polynomial has n roots is just a tiny tip of a huge iceberg. Lefschetz created what we call algebraic topology. Hodge was an early follower of Lefschetz, but brought a new perspective by using different tools, those by which Maxwell had described the electromagnetic field, the tools of linear partial differential equations. Michael wrote a memoir of Hodge, which gives a fascinating account of this evolution. His own work, in his long collaborations with Hirzebruch, Bott, and Singer, took the story a stage further. The famous index theorem is one of its high points. Alain Kohn once said he'd been to 100 talks whose title should have been, "Now I too have understood the index theorem." The general effect of this development was to shift the focus of geometry from algebraic to less rigid structures, still smooth structures. The crucial step was seeing that for topological purposes, Dirac's equation for the electron provides a more flexible replacement for the 19th century edifice of complex analysis. Dirac's equation takes the place of the Cauchy-Riemann equations. Michael's notorious dislike of being called an algebraic topologist fits into this context. Lefschetz's work was motivated by algebraic geometry, but he created techniques which quickly became focused on much more synthetic, sort of artificial spaces than those of traditional geometry. And it was this artificiality and the inward-lookingness which Michael disliked about algebraic topology, not the fact that its methods were resolutely algebraic. He was steeped in the algebraic geometer's understanding of commutative algebra, completely at home thinking, for example, of the ring of integers as a geometric object whose points are the primes, however little like most people's idea of space that is. A lot of the history of mathematics is about looking at things in new ways. Changing the landscape is what Michael will be remembered for. The topological role of the Dirac equations was just one part of a larger seismic shift in which, for example, vector bundles evolved from a technical tool in algebraic geometry to a central idea across the mathematical stage. And as much as anyone else, Michael drove this shift. But all the same, he wasn't a system builder like, say, Grothendieck. His methods were eclectic. his style was to do something decisive and move on. He didn't get involved in elaboration and didn't like to be part of the crowd. His commitment to the unity of mathematics also took a form that was all his own. He was brilliant at spotting new stars in his geometric firmament. And he brought people from all areas of mathematics, established authorities and unknown beginners, to speak in his seminar. Repeatedly, he organized programs of talks, always himself a central speaker, which reached a worldwide audience and helped start whole new fields of research. He was wonderful at grasping the essence of a new subject and formulating its program. The height of his influence, he was probably the world's chief arbiter of mathematical excellence. All the same, in areas where he was a leading advocate of inspiration, for example, gauge theory, blur theory, integral systems, geometrizing quantum field theory, he often didn't get deeply involved himself, just stepping in when he had something specific to contribute, like his seminal work on the instanton moduli space. His students worked on very diverse problems, actually, and they moved off in many different directions. He had enormous fatherly pride in them, but no impulse to found a school or empire. I often wondered how deeply he was interested in physics. Was he perhaps like another of his heroes, Skelton, who felt he could recognize mathematical ideas destined to have a place in physics, and was attracted to ideas of that sort without himself thinking about physics? That would fit most of Michael's work which touched on physics, in particular his beautiful study of the geometry of configurations of particles, which he began quite late in life, in great doubt about whether he could get back into serious research after stepping down from his administrative roles. But I suspect really he'd long had a far more ambitious goal: to find the ultimate replacement for quantum theory that Einstein sought so long in vain. And Michael had been keeping his ideas to himself because, like Newton's theology, they were so dangerously heterodox. Another division within Michael related to elitism. On one side, for him the history of mathematics, story of giants who saw further than the rest. That side of him was also fascinated by how power was wielded in the world, and he was an intrigued observer of other kinds of giants. But there was another side of him. He was always aware that mathematics is communal activity, and he devoted a lot of energy to the health of the world's mathematical community, striving to ensure that it transcended national and political boundaries. But above all, he always stressed how indispensable are the contributions of people who are not giants, and he always stood up for them. I'd like to end with his favorite example, which he often told, about Peter Fraser, a lecturer at Bristol University in the 1920s, who published nothing at all. Hodge and Dirac both were at Bristol for a few years. These were two giants, same age, but utterly unalike. They went on to spend their careers in the same department and college in Cambridge, without, as far as anyone knows, ever speaking to each other. But much later, each of them recalled how Fraser had helped shape their ideas. Michael's self-confident surface sometimes could seem arrogant, but beneath the surface, without question, the human qualities he valued were honesty and humility.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Graham, for giving us such an intimate insight into the way that Sir Michael worked and thought about mathematics and about the world in general. I might add, it reflects something that you said. The first time I saw Sir Michael was about 50 years ago when he gave a Rouse Hall lecture in Cambridge. And it was all about the smallest simple group, A5, the smallest non-abelian simple group, A5. And of course, he traced it all the way through from the symmetries of the dodecahedron from ancient Greece, right to the insolubility of the quintic and so on. And it was an absolutely marvelous lecture. So thank you very much indeed. And I now hand over to Caroline, who will close the meeting.
Thank you very much, everybody, for having joined us in this way. This is a first for us to be addressing an audience far away, but I think it's been very successful. And really all I have to say is that I hope our new fellowships really go forward from strength to strength. I would urge you, if you know of people who might like to participate in the program in either direction, have a look at the website, look at the details, and we look forward to having some very fruitful interchanges. So thank you very much for joining us this morning. Bye. I don't know how to switch this.
We can't move now.
Goodbye. So we'll break for lunch.